Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
A&M Medical is Lawrence County's newest medical clinic, specializing in urgent and primary care. Practitioners Andrea Bain and Meredith Hutton bring years of experience and compassion to keep you and your family healthy. A&M Medical features a separate well waiting room to meet your needs. Visit today and ask about A&M's weight loss program and telemedicine services. That's A&M Medical, located at 2367 Highway 43 South in Leoma, Tennessee. Since 1955, Evers Construction has been the company folks have trusted for residential and commercial construction projects. Today, Evers is still the leader in building and is just as committed to maintaining. From residential to commercial and industrial, Evers' team of experts stands ready to install, service, and repair all your HVAC and plumbing needs. Specializing in leak repair, maintenance, air duct cleaning and repair, air handler service, drain cleaning, gas line work, emergency unit repair, inspections, and more. Evers Construction offers a preventative maintenance package to keep your home or business cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Trained, trusted, reliable. For more information or to schedule an appointment with the pros who know, phone 931-762-3593 or visit eversconstructionco.com. Evers Construction Company in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
The Raptor Series from Hustler Turf. A premium line of residential mowers designed with a wide stance for operator comfort. A one-piece 11-gauge steel frame and welded steel deck for added durability. Finished off with premium Kawasaki V-twin power. We are Hustler Turf. And this is Hustler Country.
Mac Brown has been providing photographic services for 55 years. During that time, Mac Brown photographers have photographed children, seniors, weddings, schools, musicians, and commercial businesses. The studio takes great pride in producing quality photographs and services for its many clients. While the studio has adapted as times have changed, their goal of providing excellent photography has remained constant. For more information or to schedule an appointment, visit their website at macbrownphoto.com or give them a call at 931-762-4263. Let the professionals at Mac Brown Photography turn your memories into treasures.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And I'd like to welcome everybody into the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and we have an absolute ton to get into because, well, this week we're only going to have one show, so we got to throw Monday's show, Wednesday's show, and Friday's show all into one, so we are going to hop right into it. We've got last week's college football to look at. We've got a new playoff ranking to look at, and then we've got this weekend. We got Rivalry Week. It's one of the biggest weekends in the sport, so we got all of that to break into. In college basketball, there were some games late last week that you can kind of say was an appetizer for what we were getting this week with Feast Week. We had a bunch of good games on Monday and Tuesday with the Players Era Tournament, with the Maui Invitational. I believe there's even the Battle for Atlantis. There's a ton of tournaments going on. And then there's even some pretty good games to get you through the week. Nothing going on the weekend because those teams are going to need some time to rest because there are teams that have played 3 games, 4 games in as many days. So we will jump right into it with last week's college football. We'll start with Friday. Florida State, NC State. And it was 2 5-5 teams playing at Carter Finley Stadium, and NC State gets the win 21-11. Again, I didn't think this was going to be a low-scoring game. Neither one of these defenses had really impressed me much throughout the year, and they both had, I would say, pretty good offenses, but not a whole lot of scoring going on. Again, those Friday games, they get weird. Tommy Castellanos, 50% completion percentage, 200 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. CJ Bailey, a little bit better, around 75% completion percentage, 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. There wasn't a whole lot going on in this one. You could say maybe that there was a missed field goal for Florida State. I don't think that field goal was in. I don't think that would have made much of an impact on the game. But now it makes, Florida State's 5-6 now. This is a team that was ranked as high as number 8 in the country early in the season. You beat Alabama. You're 3-0, and then that Virginia game happens, and it has been just a clean fall from then. I mean, you lose 4 straight after that. You somehow beat Florida, now 8-3 Wake Forest team 42-7. Just not going good for Florida State. But it doesn't mean that this game Saturday means any less to the two teams on the field, because one's got a lot to fight for, and the other has got, while Florida doesn't have much to fight for, they can always play spoiler to Florida State, and there's not much sweeter than that to the folks in Gainesville. But a pretty good win for NC State, as they're now bowl eligible. And maybe you can say that this year wasn't a total scram. I mean, it was. You had some highs, you had some lows, but for NC State, I think they did fairly well this year, all things considered. SMU absolutely taking the belt to Louisville. I mean, 38-6. This one was over before it even got started. Louisville, you've had the injury problems. Obviously, there was no there was no Miller Moss, no Isaac Brown. You're missing a lot. So the offense was just not there. You started Deuce Adams, who, you had 100 passing yards as a team, no touchdowns, a pick, and then go to the other side and look at Kevin Jennings, 29 of 37 for 303 yards and 3 touchdowns, and add one more on the ground, so a little over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns for Kevin Jennings. These looked like two completely different teams despite having the same record going in. And listen, folks, right now, despite being 8-3, if SMU wins on Saturday and everybody else wins too, like if the higher seed teams, I guess you could say, win, we're looking at a Virginia SMU conference championship. Now with Florida, Miami at 2 losses, SMU, Pitt, and Virginia at 1 loss. You never know. So we'll talk about that Pitt team who got a huge win on Saturday night. It's over for Georgia Tech. I was a huge believer in them. I really thought that this was their get-right game, and I mean everything led to that. But I think Pat Narduzzi really backed his word up. He did not care about that Notre Dame game last week, and that showed. Pitt looked like two completely different teams week after week. Now, is that because Notre Dame's a much better team than Georgia Tech? I think mostly that. But I also think that these guys realize that they still have an ACC championship to play for and can maybe get there on Saturday. Who knows? Mason Heischel looked really good, 20 of 27, 226, and 2 touchdowns. But the highlight of this game, Pitt was going to be without Desmond Reed, their best playmaker out on the perimeter. He is one of your better receivers, one of your better run backs. Jacarian Turner, 21 carries, 201 yards, and a touchdown. After that, you combine that with Haynes King having a couple of interceptions. This Georgia Tech defense, it's been terrible the past couple of weeks. I mean, just look at the points they've given up: 42 to Pitt, 34 Boston College, 48 to NC State. I mean, even the giving up 16 to Syracuse based off what they did on Saturday, that's pathetic. So now it makes you start to wonder, is Brent Key looking elsewhere? Because I honestly think that this is the ceiling with Georgia Tech. I thought maybe it was a little bit higher, but it seems that probably 9-3 is going to be their ceiling. Does he look at Florida? We've seen them win national championships in the past 20 years. Georgia Tech, this is really the first time they've been good since the early 2010s with Paul, like somewhere around the 2012 to 2014 range with Paul Johnson. It's just, I don't know if it's just so hard to retain talent there, get talent. I mean, you're in Atlanta. There's no explanation for why Georgia Tech's just not that great other than Georgia being really good. But it makes you wonder if maybe Brent Key is now looking elsewhere. Maybe a game that didn't have much of an impact, but a fun one to watch nonetheless. Stanford getting their 3rd conference win of the season, absolutely dismantling their biggest rival, Cal, on Saturday night. You had Andrew Luck on a sideline interview when Stanford gets a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Just stuff like that's electric. Now, funny enough, this was the worst Cal looked without Cal's quarterback making a turnover. He didn't commit one. he had a touchdown. It was on the ground. He got sacked a ton because, to be quite frank, I don't think Stanford's defensive front is anything special. I just think Cal's offensive line is terrible. They ran for 12 yards. Your quarterback's getting sacked 5 times. They had 9 tackles for loss for Stanford. The Cardinals did whatever they want. Micah Ford had 150 yards and a touchdown on 5 yards a carry. It was just all Cardinal in that one, and a huge win for Stanford, maybe to build some momentum for next year. I don't think for Saturday, because I think Saturday against Notre Dame could be a repeat of what we saw Notre Dame do to Syracuse last Saturday, where Notre Dame scored 3 touchdowns before their offense even touched the field. They had more points than they had plays. They were averaging nearly 17 yards on the ground per carry. If you go look at some stats from that game, you'd be like, oh, wow, Jeremiah Love had 173 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good. And then you realize he did that on 8 carries. C.J. Carr and Kenny Minchie, if you combine their passing yards, it was less than they had points. They had 67 passing yards. And why is that? Well, they had 329 yards on the ground on 24 carries. That's what I said, just over 16, 17 yards a carry. Syracuse is getting about 2. And Joseph Filardi, before he got taken out, was and then came back in, threw 2 touchdowns to the other team before their offense touched the field. Notre Dame had a blocked punt they took back for a touchdown. It was just all bad for the Orange, and it makes you wonder how they got to this point. Because, listen, after that Clemson win, I think that there's a serious talk that they could have been ranked. If maybe if Angeli doesn't get hurt, but if Angeli doesn't get hurt, how much different is this team? Because you look, that Duke game was bad. They probably still lose that one, but you can play SMU a little closer. You only lost that one by 13. You lose to Pitt by 17. I think that one's much closer. You probably get the game against North Carolina. I think you still lose to Miami. I think you still lose to Notre Dame, and I still think you lose to Georgia Tech. Other than that, most of those games are winnable. And maybe this is another 8-4 Syracuse team that we're saying, hey, looking pretty good. But we'll see what Fran Brown does in the portal, because they got a lot to fix. Hopping on over to the Big 12, Iowa State. Was this their best game of the season yesterday? Or on Saturday? I don't know why I'm saying yesterday. I mean, feels like a month since these games have been played. 38-14 win over Kansas. Rocco Beck, 18 for 23, 241, 3 touchdowns. Carson Hansen, 22 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. This is the Iowa State we thought we would see this year. And it sucks that it took till week 13, game 11 to get there, but they really showed their potential. Kansas, on the other hand, they just don't have enough. Defense is not great. Jalen Daniels is really their only weapon on offense. We've had some good games from LaShawn Williams or Daniel Highshaw. Emmanuel Henderson's had some good games out at the wide receiver position, but they just don't have a lot of talent. And it's because it's Kansas. They're a basketball school. All the good athletes that go there are basketball players. They're not getting a ton from football. Jalen Daniels in his, feels like probably 7th year in college. Just 6th. Okay, so he's only been there since the COVID year. Maybe this is by far his best year. 2,300 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 4 picks. One of those coming on Saturday. His best game of the year, or his best year of his career, but the Big 12 was actually surprisingly really, really good this year. So I don't think there's too much to hang your hat on for Kansas, but we'll see what Lance Leipold can pull up for this team next year. Arizona, the Wildcats. Well, just a little preview. They're now in the college football playoff top 25. And that's because they got a huge win on Saturday, taking down Baylor 41-17. There wasn't anything that was particularly great in this game. Kendrick Riscano for Arizona had 3 rushing touchdowns, only 45 yards. Ismail Mahdi had nearly 100 yards and a touchdown. No Fita, 1 touchdown, a pick. I think it was more just on the lack of any semblance for Baylor, other than the fact that Arizona's defense had 3 guys get over 10 tackles, 2 guys over 15. Dalton Johnson and Genesis Smith combined for 34 tackles just between the 2 of them. Really impressive stuff. It's been a bad year for Baylor. I think hindsight now tells you, when you look back and look at that Auburn game from that Friday night leading into Labor Day weekend, that was a really, really bad loss. Now, they did get the win over a ranked SMU team, and, that is by far their best win of the year. But it's been a long year for Baylor, and not much good to look for. Now, Arizona, on the other hand, they got a lot to play for. They got a big game this weekend, a ranked matchup this weekend against two teams that, well, I would have thought one of these teams would have been ranked in this game, not both. We'll get into that one here in a little bit. Houston and TCU put on a dandy of a game. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. But it was a football game. TCU 17, Houston 14. The Cougars got back in the top 25 and immediately lost again. Connor Wigman, just over 50% completion percentage, $162 touchdowns. Listen, I watched Houston and UCF last week, or I believe that was last week, or the week before this past week on a Friday night. Terrible game. Neither one of those teams were very good. They both tried to lose the game. And you look at Houston's rushing, and you're like, wow, Connors and Wigman, they're getting like 6-7 yards, 5 to 7 yards a carry. You take out their two big runs, and that moves down to like the 3 to 5 yards per carry. Not very good when you're trying to be a running team. Josh Hoover threw 3 picks, but he threw for 300 yards. Had a big game from Joseph Manjack. Eric McAllister had a good game. Jeremy Payne, I didn't think this team would be very good without Kavorian Barnes. They still ran the ball for about 5 yards a carry. Overall, there's not going to be much that separates a 17-14 game. TCU just got out early. Houston tried to crawl back in, and then obviously TCU with the field goal in the fourth quarter to win it. Houston had a chance there at the end, missed a 38-yarder. Hurts, to get all the way down the field, have such a good drive to tie it up, try to send it to overtime, and you can't do it. TCU obviously nails the clock out, and they head home. Horned Frogs have a chance to get to 8-4, surprisingly, after a dud of a year that they've had with I really can't explain TCU this year. They should have been really good. Sonny Dykes is a great coach offensively. If they don't lose that game to Arizona State, maybe they change some things. Maybe they don't lose that game to Kansas State. If they don't lose that game to Arizona State, and maybe that matchup with Iowa State's a big one a couple weeks ago. If they don't lose a couple of those games, they got in the top 25 for 1 week and immediately lost. We've seen a lot of teams like that this year, like this aforementioned Houston team. Just not a lot of good to look at in the Big 12, outside of those top 5 teams. One of those being BYU, who played a football game Saturday, LJ Martin played a football game Saturday as BYU takes down Cincinnati 26-14, probably the last chance for BYU to lose regular season games this season. And LJ Martin, 32 carries, 222 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's just impressive. There is no other way around it. That's impressive. To dominate the trenches the way they did, because this Cincinnati team was one of the best rushing offenses in the country. Brendan Sorsby, 8 carries, 38 yards. Evan Pryor, 7 carries, 36 yards. And Tawee Walker, 5 carries, 9 yards. That's 83 yards on 20 carries. That's just a hair over 4 yards a carry to guys that were averaging like 6 to 8 yards on the ground. Now, Sorsby threw for 300, by far his best game in the air this year. He just didn't have much help around him in the run game, and when BYU is going to run for 220 and you can't even, with one guy, and you can't run for 100 with 3 guys, there's going to be some major problems there. I hate to see the season in this way for Cincinnati. Obviously they have a game on Saturday. We'll talk about it because it's, for probably who's going to play in like the Texas Bowl. But really impressive win for BYU, and maybe are they in the playoff now? Who knows? I don't think we're gonna know who's in the playoff definitively really until they say it. I really think those last 4 spots are so up in the air, and some of them have really big games coming up this weekend. So we'll have to get into those. Into the Big Ten, we had another game at Wrigley Field on Saturday, Northwestern and Minnesota, and listen, there was no way that anybody thought that was going to be a shootout, but Northwestern 38, Minnesota 35. There's not a whole lot to talk about from the game other than a great win for Northwestern. And they're finally getting to bowl eligibility. This team had been 5-2, and then 5-3, 5-4, 5-5. They finally got that win back, and I'm happy for Northwestern. They've kind of been the punching bag in college football, and finally had some get back to them. Obviously they have that point in the middle of the season where they go on an absolute tear, where they, you after that Oregon game, you beat Northwestern, you beat UL Monroe, you beat Penn State, you beat Purdue, and then you have this really big Nebraska game that you let fall through your fingertips. Same thing with USC, same thing with Michigan, and you finally get the win over Minnesota. Now, this was a very down Golden Gophers team, and Caleb Komalafe, 130 yards and a touchdown. Preston Stone, I don't know where this came from. 83% completion percentage, 25 of 30, goes for 305 and 2 touchdowns through the air. I mean, even Drake Lindsey, 264 and 4 touchdowns. I did not think this was going to be a shootout through the air, but really after the first quarter, man, it was just points galore. Great game and a big win for Northwestern as they head into next week, where I don't think they probably would have gotten to go bowl eligibility, but you never know, and that's why you got to play the games. Oregon over USC, 42-27. USC, season's over. I'm going to rant about them a little bit when we get to the playoff rankings, because I think last night was an absolute travesty for the college football playoff. I'll elaborate on that in a bit. Listen, Dante Moore looked like the best quarterback in college football on Saturday, minus that pick. 22 of 30, 257, 2 touchdowns. Domination in the trenches once again from Oregon. These two teams had beaten Iowa in weather that Iowa likes to play in the last 2 weeks, so you knew it was going to be a tough game. Jaden Malava has a little bit too much. I don't really know who I'm looking for, what quarterback comparison, but he tries to do too much and makes mistakes because of it. Now, I think USC probably has a top 5 receiving core. Obviously, we know about Mekhi Lemon. He has 2 touchdowns in this game. Jacoby Lane goes over 100 yards. And Tanook Hines, new guy, freshman out of Houston, 6 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. But again, Noah Whittington was great on the ground. Jordan Davison was good on the ground. Kenyon Sadiq and Malik Benson had big games through the air. And USC just could not catch up. Oregon's good. Oregon's going to win home. Oregon finally gets a ranked win. Finally beats somebody of semblance. I mean, yeah, that Iowa win was all right. Yeah, that Penn State win looked really nice at the time, but you look at Oregon, and I'm going to say this now that the season's pretty much over for them, or at least the regular season. They didn't play anybody this year. I get we say that about Ohio State. We need to start having a little narrative about how bad the Big Ten really is, because You see it on social media, the narrative that ESPN puts the SEC on some higher pedestal because that's the conference that they, I guess you could say, somewhat represent. They're with ABC and Disney and all that stuff. It's like, oh, the SEC is, why are you talking so good about the SEC? Let's look at the bottom of the Big Ten, and there's a threshold where we actually get into some competent teams. Purdue, not good. I mean, you can look at any of their non-conference games. Their non-conference was Ball State, Southern Illinois, and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame beat them by 30. Michigan State, they are a whopping they're 3-8, a little bit better. Their non-conference games. Western Michigan, a double overtime win against Boston College, and Youngstown State. And that's their 3 wins. They have not won a conference game. Lose to USC. Lose to Nebraska. Get demolished by UCLA. You get demolished by Indiana. Michigan does the same thing. Minnesota took them overtime, but they got it. You let Penn State finally get a conference win. Iowa gets one over you on Saturday night, and Maryland will probably do the same. And speaking of the Terrapins, Maryland, they're not good either. Their non-conference was Northern Illinois, FAU, and Towson. They didn't play any semblance of a team with a heartbeat outside the conference. Props to Wisconsin. They played Alabama. They're awful. Their best win. Now, they do have a ranked win. They do have 2 ranked wins, actually, in the last 3 weeks. I think they looked a lot better against Illinois on Saturday, but if anybody thought that Illinois should have been ranked going into that game, they're dumb. Washington win, your leading passer was your punter. Rutgers, terrible. Ohio State beat you by 40, and they rest their receivers in that game because they know they don't need them. Penn State, they've had a rough year. Obviously, a lot of turmoil, a lot of stuff with their coach getting fired, but it's because they weren't a good team. They'll probably give some ACC's team a scare at a bowl game that they probably shouldn't be in. UCLA, they had a cool 3-week stretch in the middle of the season, but for the most of the part, we thought they were going to win 3 games or even none. It got hairy there for a minute. Illinois, every big game they've had, they've lost. I guess you could say that Duke win looks cool, but Indiana beat you by 50. You barely get over USC. That looks like a decent win now. You probably give Ohio State more of a fight than anybody else has, but you get demolished by Washington. You lose to Wisconsin by 17. I just can't get over that one. Minnesota, I don't think they're very good. They scored 3 points against Ohio State. Wins over... they lost to Cal. I don't think Cal's a very good team, and it was a game where their quarterback actually had a turnover. It was one of those wins that they got without their quarterback, or with their quarterback making a mistake. So, I don't think Nebraska is any good at all now that Rayola's hurt. I don't think they would have been great before that. So now we're at Iowa. Iowa had a couple big games this year. They lost every single one of them. You lost to Iowa State. You lost to Indiana. You lost to Oregon. You lost to Iowa or USC. You had 4 chances to prove you were good. You were close in every single one of those games. Every single one of them. You lose to Iowa State by 3. You lose to Indiana by 5. You lose to Oregon by 2, and you lose to USC by 5. You lost those 4 games by a combined 15 points. Close. Now, I think Washington is somewhat competent. You have that loss to Wisconsin where you really scratch your head. But really, outside of the top 25, are there many good teams in the Big Ten? Because every time another one of them has gotten ranked, they've immediately lost. Because now it makes it look like they're just putting numbers on these Big Ten teams just to make them look good for matchups. Because realistically, how many good Big Ten games did we have this year that actually meant something? Oregon, Penn State at the time felt big. That's not a great game. You get Ohio State. Who have they played? Look at their schedule. You have a win over You have that win over number 1 Texas at the beginning of the season. If Texas was the best we had in college football this year, it's a bad year. You beat Grambling, you beat Ohio. Cool. You beat Washington 24-6. You beat Minnesota 42-3. You beat Illinois. You beat Wisconsin. You beat Penn State. You beat Purdue. You beat UCLA. You beat Rutgers. These are all teams in the bottom half of the conference. You didn't play one team that was with semblance, and now you get Michigan on Saturday. Well, unfortunately, I don't think Michigan's very good either. You look at their 2 losses, and it's to Oklahoma, who that looks like a pretty good loss, in USC, which I think, that was a terrible loss. I think that game, the fact that USC out-physicaled Michigan in that game makes me think that this Michigan-Ohio State game this weekend will be a little bit rough. I digress. I can rant about the Big Ten being overrated all week. Michigan got a nice win, 45-20 over Maryland. Have a third running back over 100 yards this year. Maybe that fares well for them next week. Penn State looks as good as they've looked all year. 37-10 win over Nebraska. And Washington 48-14 over a reeling UCLA who ran the absolute worst fake field goal I have ever seen. I hope everybody goes back and watches that and laughs at the holder for UCLA because, that went terribly. He tries to do the cool little boom, pop it over his head to the kicker. The kicker completely misses the ball. Obviously it was a terrible throw. And then Washington, the first guy over-pursues the ball and then has time to stop, turn around, pick up the ball, pick it back up, and then run for a touchdown. That was the greatest sequence of the weekend. Into the SEC, Oklahoma over Missouri, 17-6. Nothing much to talk about in this one because there wasn't a whole lot going on. Oklahoma is the Eagles of college football. Their defense is good, their offense is terrible, and your price for paying them is an ugly game. Arkansas falls to Texas 52-37. Arch has 6 total touchdowns, throws for a couple, runs for 1, catches 1, does it all. Texas is as good as they've looked on the season, and probably the momentum they need heading into Texas. Vandy absolutely demolishes Kentucky 45-17. Kentucky put a touchdown on late. Diego Pavia breaks Whit Taylor's passing yards record in a single game at Vanderbilt. And I think Vanderbilt is another team I'm going to rant about when we get to the playoff rankings, because they have been very disrespected. A lot of the narrative heading into the year was that Pavia couldn't throw. And I was probably one of the people spewing that. Well, he's nearing 3,000 yards, and all things considered will most likely get there on Saturday against Tennessee. But you look at his game log since that Texas game. 365 against Texas, 377 against Auburn, 484 against Kentucky. Now, Texas and Auburn and Kentucky have all proven that they can play good defensively. And Vanderbilt torched them. Bobby had 6 touchdowns and over 500 yards, almost 550 yards on Saturday. Tennessee gets their first win in the swamp in 22 years, 31-11. That one was over from the start. I was one of those that said Tennessee needs to get out 21-0 and I'll feel comfortable. They did, pretty instantly. It was 28-0 before Florida put a good drive together, and then they missed the field goal. Put some points on late, but I don't think anybody watched the second half in that. I don't think anybody needed to watch the second half in that. That was the first time the Tennessee-Florida game looked, at least in the favor of Tennessee, looked how it should have. Tennessee just goes down there, whips a bad Florida team, go home. LSU 13-10 over Western Kentucky. It was a game I said keep an eye on, and Western Kentucky didn't even play good. That shows you where LSU's at right now, to all the people that are looking at that job. James Madison barely got over Washington State, 24-20. Now, they beat them by more than Virginia, who's probably going to make the playoff now, and Ole Miss, who is probably going to make the playoff now. We'll talk about that one in a minute, because their coach might leave, and it makes their game on Friday really, really interesting. Tulane over Temple. North Texas looks really good over Rice. San Diego State handled San Jose State, and Hawaii got dismantled by UNLV. Now to the new college football playoff top 25. I don't think anything inside the top 12 changed necessarily, but I've got some rants to make just based off of. I could sit here and rant for forever. Okay, so right now the highest 3-loss ranked team is Texas. This is where I'll start my rant. Texas is 7-3, or 8-3, I guess. Their losses are 2. The number 1 team in the country by 7. That looks pretty good. The number 8 team in the country. Well, actually, you beat them. Who are Texas's lost to? Ohio State, Florida, and who else did they? Georgia. Okay, so their losses are to 1-4 and a team with 3 wins. Then you have USC, whose losses are to Illinois, who is unranked, Notre Dame, who is number 9, and Oregon, who is number 6. Okay. Then you have Tennessee as the 3rd highest ranked 3-loss team. And I get it. I'm a Tennessee guy. I'm going to say this. Tennessee's losses are to 4, 8, and 10. And they're the 3rd highest ranked 3-loss team. Tennessee does not have a loss to an unranked team. They beat a team that beat Texas in the same place. Tennessee beat them by 20. Texas lost by 2 scores. I mean, I get everybody's going to try to tell you that Tennessee's not good, but Tennessee at least hung with Georgia. It was 44-41 in overtime. Texas went down there and got beat by 25. Now, USC and Tennessee don't have any common opponents, so I have not much of an argument there, but you can't tell me that USC team is better than Tennessee. Now, they're both really good at offense, and their defenses are terrible. I think it'd be a good matchup. And now my second rant is going to be about Vanderbilt. How did they not move up? I don't get it. They handled them definitively. And they have here's my biggest bicker is they moved Miami up because everyone wants to make Miami and Notre Dame as close as they can so they can rank Miami over Notre Dame because of a week 1 game. Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech, the team that Miami played Saturday, by more than Miami. That's probably going to be their only common opponents because they're in different conferences, but that's got to be worth something. You're telling me that Vanderbilt, whose losses are on the road to number 10 and on the road to number 16, is not as good as a Miami team whose losses are on the road to number 21 and at home to an unranked team who's going to finish 7-5? I don't get where this love for Miami has come from. They have proved that they can't win big games. They will not win big games in October. You beat Virginia Tech. Woohoo, they have 4 wins. At least Kentucky was a 5-5 team who is probably going to go bowl eligible and beat a team that went ahead and beat Miami. I think they're going to beat Louisville on Saturday. I really do. Now, that Louisville team structure has changed since that game a little bit, but still. I think that those rankings are a joke. You have the new college football playoff chairman doing the 6-7 thing on ESPN last night. I just think it's an embarrassment to the sport. I mean, this is almost $1 billion industry, and we have a dude that's supposed to be overseeing the biggest playoff in this. I'd say the second biggest playoff in college sports right now, because it's not to March Madness scale yet, obviously. But I mean, we're joking about it. I don't see it. So the playoff 12 is not changed. The top 10 is not changed. So not much to talk about there. It's pretty much just the seeding behind them, which doesn't matter. Also, I think the AP poll is better than the playoff rankings. I really do. After seeing the playoff rankings this year, I think the AP poll is better. Because the college football playoff ranking is going to be 24 Power 4 teams and the highest ranked group of 5 team, who's going to be 24. It's been 24 every week. Might be 23 some weeks, but it's going to be in that 23 to 25 range, and it's a joke. Right now, you cannot tell me that Arizona State or Virginia or SMU is a better team than I think Tulane would beat all 3 of them. I think that North Texas would probably beat most of them. Now, I am happy Arizona has a number by their name. I think they've deserved it. They have played awesome this season. But what has Georgia Tech done anymore? I mean, I've come to their defense most of the season, but I mean, Arizona State hasn't looked great. They have that win over Texas Tech. If they didn't, they would not have a number by their name. Pitt. I mean, Pitt's pretty good. I would actually think them in North Texas would be a pretty good game. James Madison, where are they at? I mean, they beat a team by more than number 7 and number 18 beat them. And they only have 1 loss. And that 1 loss is to a team that number 12 lost to. Where the Dukes at? It's because they play in the Sun Belt. I mean, their logic is flawed greatly, I think. I mean, you're telling me that Michigan, who lost to USC by 18 points and has a better record than them, is only 2 spots better? I mean, I don't get it. I could sit here and rant about there's 25 teams. How many deserve to actually be ranked? Probably like 10 of them. I think the top 10 is really good. Outside of that, not much. And it's good because those top 10 and the ACC champ and the Group of 5 champ are going to make it in. So let's get into rivalry week, because it is the best week in college football. Now, unfortunately, most of these big rivalry games aren't going to be as good because the teams decided to suck this year. But we'll break into it with the ACC and their games versus some SEC opponents. Georgia Tech, this one on Black Friday at 2:30. I don't think there is any reason Georgia Tech will show up and compete in this game. Their season's over probably. They'll have a bowl game. Half their guys will sit out that are getting drafted. And Brent Key's probably going to take the Florida job. I mean, I just feel like that or LSU. One of those feels pretty likely now. Now, Georgia Tech may come out and surprise us, but they've been too turnover prone, and their defense is awful. Georgia will eat them alive. Clemson, South Carolina, this game early in the season was going to be a dandy. You have Klubnik, you have Sellers. It might be a Heisman battle. Maybe one of these teams is fighting for a playoff spot. Well, I'm pretty sure neither of these teams are going to make a bowl game. Clemson might have a chance with the win here. But really, after week 2, the sales were completely deflated for this game. Clemson is going to make a bowl game. South Carolina is not. there's probably not going to be much fight. Now, Kay Klubnik, I don't think has beaten South Carolina in his career. He's got a good chance because this South Carolina team is awful. If they had beaten Texas A&M, I would say they have a chance here, but I just don't see it. Kentucky, Louisville at 11 a.m. These two teams unranked. Louisville has completely fallen off a cliff. They have no run game. They have no quarterback. And Kentucky's got both of those. They got Dante Dowdell. They have Seth McGowan. And they have Cutter Boley. I'm a huge Cutter Boley fan. He's had a bit of a rough game on Saturday, but I think Louisville is a much easier opponent than Vanderbilt is. And, hey, I mean, this is a chance for Kentucky to, get to 6-6 and make it to a bowl game. And, for Louisville, this is almost disaster setting in. They're going to go from, it's crazy. They're going to go from a 7-3 team to 7-1 to 7-4, maybe 7-5 in just a month. November has not been kind to the Cardinals, or really any Jeff Brom team. Florida State, another game that doesn't mean anything, but again, Florida State has a chance to go to a bowl game. Florida would love to ruin that. Maybe we'll see it. That one at 3:30 on Saturday. Now to the ACC versus ACC games. Miami and Pitt. Number 12 Miami, number 22 Pitt. 11 a.m. I don't know if Pat Narduzzi said anything in his press conferences this week, or we're just reliving what he said against Notre Dame. That Notre Dame game didn't matter. He goes and absolutely dismantles Georgia Tech. Now I think they're going to go and dismantle Miami. I really do. Big win coming for Pitt on Saturday at 11 a.m. Hop on over to the Big 12 now, where Arizona and Arizona State are playing Friday night. And it's a ranked battle. I mean, if you look at where these two teams were just a couple years ago, very different spots. I mean, Kevin Sumlin had almost run Arizona into the ground, and then Herm Edwards had almost done the same to Arizona State. Now you got some younger guys. Jed Fish helped build Arizona back up. Now he's at Washington. Kenny Dillingham has done a great job at Arizona State. It's a great matchup. I think Arizona with Fafita is going to be much better than Arizona State without Levitt. They've been without Jordan Tyson, really their best players most of the season. I think that's going to favor Arizona in this one. Cincinnati, TCU, I'm just joking that this is for who's going to play, Texas in the Texas Bowl. Neither one of these teams has been really impressive this year defensively. I think there's going to be a good chance for there to be a lot of points in this game. But Cincinnati on the ground, TCU through the air. Let's see what prevails on Saturday. In the Big Ten on Friday, Iowa, Nebraska, 11 a.m. That's going to be hard-nosed football. Nebraska has looked so bad without Raiola. I get they still have Emmett Johnson, but I think Iowa's going to handle him and do their thing on offense, which is not score a whole lot, but they'll score. Ohio State and Michigan, 11 a.m. on Saturday. I don't know what to think about this one. Michigan's won 4 in a row. Michigan winning last year as a 3-touchdown underdog. I don't know exactly what the spread is on this one heading into, or at least as of now. Take a look at that real quick. So right now, this spread is Ohio State minus 9.5, so give or take 10. Ohio State hasn't tried at all once this year. Maybe a little bit against Illinois when that one was still close, but other than that, they haven't tried. They rested their best receivers, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith last week during their game against Rutgers, so they would have them ready for Michigan. Has not trying hurt them, though. They've been in first gear all year, maybe second. When they try to push it to 5 against Michigan or 4, getting it to 5, are they going to overdo it and mess up? Because they haven't had to make big plays this year. They have not. They haven't played anybody, like I said. They struggled against Texas. Now, Ohio State's defense, best in the country by far. Michigan's going to run the ball a ton because Bryce Underwood cannot throw it. Contrary to Ohio State's quarterback who can sling it all over the yard. Michigan's got a good defense too. Not as good. I don't think they're as physical. I think losing to USC was probably the detriment to their season. But man, if Michigan wins on Saturday, it's going to mess up a lot for the college football playoff. It's probably going to knock Alabama out in favor of a 2-loss Michigan because they'll have a win over number 1. It may knock Notre Dame out. If your team's in the playoff right now, you're cheering for Ohio State on Saturday. Oregon and Washington at 2:30 on CBS. Unfortunately, that this one is going to be like a 12:30 local kick for those guys out west, because this should be a night game. This is great environment. Two teams that don't like each other. Oregon, a chance to prove it against Washington. Again, Washington, a chance to prove that they're a good school against Oregon. You got Northwestern Illinois, the night game on Fox. I don't think either one of these teams have been great this year. It's going to be a sluggish battle, and battle for the state of Illinois. Over to the SEC, Friday we got a ton of good ones. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. This is going to be probably the most watched Egg Bowl ever, because what's Lane Kiffin going to do? Is he going to stay? Is he going to leave? He's getting to the point where he's burned enough bridges that I think he has to go. I've been a proponent that I don't think he's leaving unless he goes to the NFL. But this is just kind of felt like a disaster almost. This whole, because it feels like everybody in the world knows he's leaving, except Ole Miss fans that don't want to accept that yet. Makes the game a little more interesting, and if Mississippi State comes out and shocks them, folks, Ole Miss is done. Kiffin's gone, and the playoff committee will probably drop them out because of it. And it's going to be crazy that a two-loss SEC team like Ole Miss is going to miss the playoff. But if they lose and Lane Kiffin announces he's going to Florida or LSU or the Titans or whatever he's doing, Ole Miss is done. Now, Texas A&M, Texas A&M's in the playoff. Texas A&M is not. Seems pretty final. The Longhorns could shake some things up and maybe get a big win, but listen, Texas A&M has looked extremely good this year, like extremely good, and they look even better on the road. They're going to Texas. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a good environment. Maybe Texas gets out to an early lead, but I just don't see Texas A&M being able to I just don't see them dropping this. I think there's probably going to be a good bit of points. I think A&M's offense has looked maybe a bit down the past couple of weeks, but they looked good Saturday against Samford. Texas's offense has sputtered, but have had more good games than bad as of late. Could be some good points in this one. Now, this is going to be an ugly one. I mean, 10 points might win the game. LSU, Oklahoma, 2:30 on Saturday. Again, it's going to be like watching that Eagles-Packers game from a couple weeks ago. Neither one of these offenses are very good. Both of the defenses are pretty good. Who's going to actually score some points? You never know. Vandy and Tennessee. This one at 2:30 on Saturday as well. The first time that these two teams have ever met where they're both ranked. There were some years in the early days where it was Vandy who was ranked. Some years in the 80s and 90s and 2000s where Tennessee was ranked. A lot of years where they've both sucked. Finally, you get a good game. Now, I saw something on Twitter that I think Dave Neal should get to call this game because of all the stinkers he's had to call in this series over the past 20 years, 25 years. This is the biggest Tennessee-Vanderbilt game of all time. Usually this game doesn't mean anything because by this point, either one team or both of these teams, the wheels have fallen off. They're not. Vandy has still got playoff aspirations and have a chance to get a ranked win on Saturday. Tennessee has a chance to absolutely ruin this party for Vanderbilt because I think that if Tennessee wins on Saturday, Vandy's not going to make the playoff. Diego Pavia is probably not going to New York. So they have a chance to, while their season, in all sense of the playoff is over, which I think we need to stop talking about that if you're not making the playoff, your season's over. Listen, I grew up when Tennessee went 4-8 2 times in 3 years. I saw Tennessee lose to Kentucky with Randall Cobb at quarterback. I saw Tennessee lose to Vanderbilt in 2013. I watched them lose to Vanderbilt 3 years in a row from 2016 to 2018. The fact that Tennessee is 8-3 right now, just won in the swamp by 20 points, I'm ecstatic. Get a ranked win over Vanderbilt, that would be awesome. But right now, as good as Vanderbilt's offenses look pass game-wise, Pavia might throw for 500 yards against Tennessee. Tennessee's secondary has looked bad. I mean, it got to look good against Saturday because DJ Lagway couldn't complete a pass from me to this camera. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt to win. I really think that they just have enough pieces on offense. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this one. This is two top 10 offenses in the country, total offense. Number 4, Tennessee. Number 9, Vanderbilt. Now, given Vandy hasn't played an offense in the top 50 yet, in the top 60 yet. I think Bama is somewhere in the mid-50s. That's the best offense they've played this year. And they lost that game. The next best offense they played was Texas. They lost that game. So, it's going to be which defense can force a turnover or get a big stop late. This is going to have a lot of points in it. a game that I have no idea how it's going to go because it never goes how it should. Number 10, Alabama, Auburn. Auburn has a chance to ruin everything that Alabama's done this year. I think after week 1, Alabama had completely thrown out that Florida State game, and they were, right now they are 9-1 or whatever it is. Auburn sees that as an opportunity to knock them out of the playoff and completely end their season. And it would open up a spot for a Vanderbilt, a Miami, a BYU. Who I think should probably be the next one in if you have a team drop out. Listen, LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn, Alabama, and Vandy, Tennessee, and even Ole Miss, Mississippi State are all going to be huge games for who could potentially jump in and fall out of the playoff. Now that last group of 5 spot. Temple is that ranked team right now. They play 1-10 Charlotte on Saturday. They're going to kill Charlotte. It's just how it is. James Madison's got Coastal on Saturday. They will demolish them. North Texas has got Temple on Friday. They'll demolish them. So who gets the ranked spot? Probably Temple because they have the advantage right now. That one's going to be decided conference championship weekend. So that will do it for our college football segment. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about last weekend's college basketball, which there wasn't a whole lot, and we'll go back over the games from Monday and Tuesday, which we had some absolute just great games, and then we'll talk about the games for the remainder of the week. That will be when we return on the Mark My Words College Sports Show.
The Raptor Series from Hustler Turf. A premium line of residential mowers designed with a wide stance for operator comfort, a one-piece 11-gauge steel frame and welded steel deck for added durability, finished off with premium Kawasaki V-twin power. We are Hustler Turf, and this is Hustler Country.
Back to school equals back to big savings at Heritage Automotive in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Score 0% financing on select models and up to $15,000 off MSRP on new 1500 trucks. Over 150 used vehicles, all priced to move and below market value. Need service? Our expert team is ready, and we've got loaner vehicles to keep you moving while we work. Hurry into Heritage Automotive, where the deals are hot and the savings are huge.
Heritage Automotive. Expect more, experience the difference.
Arts, crafts, stationery, journals, books, educational toys, wrapping paper, devotionals, greeting cards, and much more can all be found at Paper and Thread in downtown Lawrenceburg. Shop local to find the perfect gift or have a custom gift basket made for just the right occasion. Paper and Thread has a party room now available for birthdays, classes, and so much more. We could go on and on about all the neat things you'll find at Paper and Thread, but you just need to hop in your car and head down there. 106 North Military Avenue in Lawrenceburg is where you'll find them and discover what makes Paper and Thread awesome. That's Paper and Thread in downtown Lawrenceburg, 106 North Military Avenue, just north of the square.
For over 50 years, Southern Tennessee Regional Health System Lawrenceburg has been a cornerstone of care in Lawrence County. From cardiology to orthopedics, general surgery, primary care, and women's health, we offer compassionate expert care close to home. Our ER is now stronger than ever with more providers, chest pain accreditation, and our newest Joint Commission stroke accreditation because every second matters. Generations have trusted us for compassionate care and medical excellence. Faster, trusted, accredited emergency care with hometown heart.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and it is basketball time. Listen, I always say that college basketball is got 2 big weeks. The first, the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament, where you have the first 4 games on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the remainder of the games Tuesday or Thursday through Sunday. That's fun because you have 68 teams going at it. Feast week is a close second because, I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's feast week. So we're going to take a look at some games that happened that I previewed last weekend. We had some of the, I described it as the appetizer for Feast Week. So we will jump right into it first with South Carolina and Butler. The Gamecocks, Lamont Paris, you don't really know what you're getting out of them. Now, they've had some big games, obviously, throughout the season. But they fell in the Greenbrier tip-off to Butler 79-72. The Bulldogs 4-1 on the season. Thad Matta's got a good team. Michael Ajayi, 15 points. Jalen Jackson, 10. Jamie Kaiser with 14. 18 from Finley Bizjack. Listen, they got 5 starters that can do it all. They really can spread it around. Ajayi goes for 14 boards. Just an absolute force on the interior. For South Carolina, they have Meechie Johnson. He has 24 points, is averaging probably just north of 15. Yeah, about 16 points a game. They need some help. Miles Studi was a great shooter at Vanderbilt. Has completely fallen apart from the three-point line at South Carolina. Kobe Knox, I don't really, the transfer from USF. He's a 10 point, 3 rebound, 3 assist kind of guy. I think you're going to get that from him. You're going to need more from him. Michael Charvanches, you need a little bit more out of him. You probably want a little bit more than 12 points. They have their guy in Meechie Johnson. They just need to find some help around him. Wisconsin and BYU. This one was last Friday on Peacock. Listen, I think BYU has one of the most exciting teams in college basketball this year. I really do, and they absolutely demolished Wisconsin in that open round of the Bad Boy Mower series. Wisconsin's got some good players: John Blackwell, Nolan Winter, Nick Boyd. Their defense was terrible. AJ DeBansa, 18 points. 11 of them came from the line. He was not doing great shooting. Richie Saunders, on the other hand, hit 5 threes. Rob Wright gave you 10 points, 11 dimes. Dawson Baker, you got 11 points from somebody that wasn't those big three. When they can do that, BYU is the most dangerous team in the country. And I will pretty firmly stand by that when those 3 guys are on, you can get 20 to 25 from Saunders. Somewhere in the 18 to 20 range or 18 to 20 plus from DeBansa, and then 10 points and 10 to 12 assists from Rob Wright. BYU's best team in the country. Northwestern and Virginia, these are 2 teams that have had good years as of late, but this year, you don't know what you're going to see from them. Well, Virginia got that one 83-78, again in that Greenbrier tip-off. Ayrton Page, Jaden Reed, you got 45 from them. You didn't get much from anybody else. Again, for Northwestern, it's going to be stopping defensively. Virginia moves. They're getting up and down the court, still shooting a bunch of threes, but they're not as slow. Ritter, 26 points. Hall, 11. Malik Thomas, 14. You get Chance Mallory with 16 off the bench, 9 free throws. Huge impact, 8 boards. And that dude was huge. Virginia, 5-0 up to that point. We will see what else we had going on Friday. Number 6 Louisville heading up just I guess technically it's just east, but slightly northeast up to Cincinnati to take on the Bearcats. Listen, Cincinnati-Louisville, that's Big East basketball at its heart. Louisville gets the win 74-64 in the Hoops Classic. Listen, Louisville is a really, really good team. But I don't know how much help they really have. Ryan Conwell, Michael Brown Jr., who are going to get 20 a night from both of them. Isaac McNeely's and Javon Hadley are the 2 wild cards. If they're shooting the lights out that night, because McNeely's a guy that can probably give you 4 threes a game, realistically. If he is hitting and Javon Hadley is doing what he can do, Louisville is up there with BYU as one of the most dangerous teams in the country. But when they're not, teams like Cincinnati can hang in there with them, and they got more of a widespread affair. Baba Miller with 9 points, 8 boards, 10 points, 9 boards from Daim. Day Thomas gives you 12. Shauna Bave gives you 12. Kirk Kriisa, the Kentucky and West Virginia and Arizona transfer, he has 6 points. You're going to want to see a little bit more from him behind the arc. He's a shooter and didn't shoot great in that one. West Virginia, one of his former schools, was playing. They had a game against Clemson on Friday. Let me pull that one up real quick. Mountaineers have gotten off to a good start this season. Obviously got the big win at home against Pitt. well, they fell in the first game of the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic to the Clemson Tigers. Both teams now 5-1. And West Virginia got Trayson Eaglestaff out of the portal. He had went to South Carolina, I believe, and then decommitted and ended up in West Virginia. He was the guy at North Dakota. It was just give the ball to him, let him work. He was, had that 40-point game against Alabama, and everybody wanted him out of the portal. I feel like West Virginia's misusing him a bit. They're kind of just having him sit in the corner and chuck up threes, and that's not his game. Jasper Floyd had a great game. Honor Huff had a good game. Chance Moore gives you 16 points off the bench. But it was a bit of a spread of wealth from Clemson. 5 guys in double figures. Carter Welling, 13. Justin Porter, 14. Dylan Hunter with 13. R.J. Godfrey with 14. Buda Johnson with 11. Godfrey and Johnson off the bench with those 25 points. Gives Clemson a 3-point win right there. Mississippi State and New Mexico. Now, I wanted to see how these two teams bounced back, because Mississippi State has not looked good this year at all, actually. I mean, they're probably nearing the bottom of the SEC in terms of men's basketball this year. New Mexico got them, 80-78 in the Hall of Fame Classic, the consolation game. Again, Josh Hubbard, 29 points. Jay Nepps, 21 points. The rest of the team, not much. And they got to be able to defend, too. New Mexico cannot score 80 points on you. Tomislav Bujan, 19 points. Antonio Chol, 12. Uriah Tenetti, 13 points. I mean, it was a little bit of everybody doing it for New Mexico, and that's why the Lobos are 4-2 right now, and Mississippi State has a losing record. And it took overtime Monday against New Orleans for them to get back to 500. It's going to be a long year for the Bulldogs. Not sure how many more times we'll be talking about them unless they go on a big run. Georgia and Xavier, that one was 8 o'clock on ESPN2 on Friday night. The Bulldogs have a pretty good team. Mike White has, it's debatable on whether or not he's a great college coach. Georgia did get the win 78-77 over the Musketeers. I think it's concerning for Georgia because Xavier's not good. I mean, Richard Pitino's tweeting out his game reports. Blue Cane has got to be a close to 20 point per game guy, because right now Georgia is playing 12 guys a game and don't really have it figured out yet. Nobody's playing over 30 minutes really except Kane. If they can get big games from him, because he didn't shoot great in that game, and that was a big thing. Neither did Cannon Catchings. If those two can get things figured out, I think that Georgia could be pretty good, a pretty good team. But really, before that, I mean, what are you getting from them? So I don't really know how to break down Georgia yet. I'm going to need to see them play some conference games first before I give you a full breakdown on the Dogs. On to Texas Tech Purdue. You had Texas Tech, who was looking like one of the better teams in the Big 12 this season. Obviously got a lot back from that team that made a big run last year. But they had to play the number one team in the country in the Baja Mar Championship, and Purdue dismantled them by 30, 86-56. JT Toppin gives you 15 and 8, and you got 14 points off the bench. Then you look, every single one of Purdue's starters scored in double figures. Trey Kaufman-Wren gives you 12 and 6. Oscar Clough 15 and 15 with 7 offensive rebounds. Every year Purdue has an annoying 7-footer, 6'11" guy. And it's Oscar Clough this year. CJ Cox with 10. Braden Smith with 10.7 assists. Only 2 turnovers. Fletcher Lawyer with 10 points. Daniel Jacobson with 11 off the bench. Omar Meyer with 11 off the bench. That is 7 guys in double figures. That happens against, I can't even think of a school. Let me look at some random school. Lindenwood, Sam Houston State. That's who those games happen against. They happen against the Evansvilles and the Akrons. Not when a top 15 matchup's going on. So maybe Texas Tech is not as good as we thought they were. When JT Toppin is leading you in every pretty much stat that's important. really disappointing because I really thought we were going to get a good game out of that, but Purdue is showing why they're one of the best teams in the country. An old Big 12 rematch, Kansas State and Nebraska. Both of these teams looked really good in their opening matchups against Mississippi State and New Mexico. How would they fare against each other, though, is the big question. Both of these offenses have put up some serious points in some games this year. And when they played each other, it was no different. Nebraska gets the win 86-85. Fred Hoiberg's team is legit this year, and they are deep. And I mean, they have a 15-point per game guy, 12-point per game guy on their bench in Braden Frager. You get 20 and 21 from Sanford and Mast. Sam Hoiberg is, coach's kid, gives you 13. That's a good night. Kansas State needs to play defense because you have Abdi Bashir Jr. That guy averaging about 14 a game. PJ Haggerty, he's averaging 27 a game. He's actually the leading scorer in the country. If y'all could defend somebody and those two guys can give you 50 a night, you're going to win a lot of games because I can guarantee the rest of their team can score 25 points. And if you can hold teams to under 75 points, you're going to win some games. If you can't, which you've struggled to do lately, you're going to have some trouble doing that. Now, on to this week, because there weren't many games on Saturday and Sunday. We'll hop into Monday's game. Houston takes down Syracuse 78-74. Vegas hasn't treated Houston well as of late. They went 0-2 there last year, started off with a shaky win over Syracuse, and pretty much from that point, they weren't going to make the final. For Syracuse, again, they had 6 guys in double figures. 12 from William Kyle, 10 from Nate Kings, 11 from Nathan George, 11 for J.J. Starling, 16 for Tyler Betsy, and 10 from Kyan Anthony. If that name sounds familiar, it's because his dad won a national championship there 22 years ago. Wow. There's no way that's actually Carmelo Anthony's son. Because now it's going to make me feel old. I mean, I remember Nuggets Mello, and obviously he was winning the national championship at Syracuse the year I was born, but I remember the episode of Ned's the Classified School Survival Guide. There was an episode where Carmelo Anthony had a cameo over some sneakers and a lost and found, maybe. Bringing back some memories, but not a great look from Houston there in Game 1. Did end up getting the win in overtime. Houston's got some dudes, though. Chris Signac, 8 points, 12 boards. Joseph Tugler, foul trouble, fouled out. Kingston Flemings didn't shoot good. But you got 26 from Emmanuel Sharp, who I think is one of the better shooters in the country, and Milos Uzan. We'll see how that played into their game the next day. Seton Hall taking down NC State 85-74, the first loss for NC State under new head coach Will Wade. They're still a couple years away. Now, I get you can build a pretty good team in the portal, but I think Will Wade's still trying to work on getting that continuity back that he may have lost while he was at LSU. And NC State's defense wasn't good, which is weird for a Will Wade team, but Adam Clark, Mike Williams, Elijah Fisher, all with 13 or 14 points. A.J. Stanton-McCray with 22. Seton Hall could be a pretty good team this year. Darian Williams, he was all right. Need some more shots out of him. Vin Allen Lubin had a good game. Trey Holloman. What else can you get out of some of these guys, though? I mean, Matt Abel gave you 15 off the bench, but you need a big scorer. Every team needs a big scorer. You're not going to win a bunch of games with 5, 12-point per game guys. You win a lot more games when you have like a 25-point per game guy and a bunch of 8-point per game with them. So is NC State going to be able to find that guy? Who knows? Arizona State takes down Texas 87-86, a close one there. And you're starting to see this year the SEC is just not going to be as good as it has been in basketball. Last year was weird because everyone was really good in the SEC. I mean, you go to the bottom teams in the SEC and in basketball last year, and yeah, South Carolina wasn't good, but I mean, teams near the bottom like Oklahoma, we're still in Georgia, we're still tournament teams. I mean, they were good. Texas this year doesn't exactly have the same caliber, and they lose their opening round game in the Maui Invitational. Maurice Odom, 36 points for the Sun Devils. And look, you have guys getting 8, 6, 6, 5, 17. Well, actually, Anthony Johnson had a really good game. 5 points, 4 points. That wins you ball games. Texas, on the other hand, got 24 from Dalen Swain, 15 from Jordan, or 10 from Jordan Pope, 11 from Tremont Mark. I figured getting Pope and Mark back would make this team so much more dangerous than they have been, but Texas is struggling a little bit. They got a game against NC State in that Maui gym, the Maui Invitational 5th place game, that one tonight. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. Iowa State taking down St. John's 83-82, and the Johnnies, they've got some losses now on them. They've got 2, actually, early in the season, and that's what happens when you play a tough schedule. Now, I don't think that this doesn't necessarily change my opinion on them too much. Maybe they're just an Elite 8 team, not a Final Four team like everybody saw. But they kind of struggled against an Iowa State team that just tore them apart offensively. This St. John's team needs to fix their defense quick. Alabama's put 100 on them. Iowa State scoring 85. Josh Jefferson, Milan Momcilovic, Taman Lipsey, those guys combined for 56 points. And the rest of their guys played their roles. Juby Ejiofor had 16-9 for St. John's. Bryce Hopkins 16-7. He's got to be able to shoot better. If you're wanting to be your team's leading scorer, or your second leading scorer on a team this good, you cannot shoot 3 for 10. Sanon, same thing said about him. 2 for 10 shooting. Sellers gives you 20. Dylan Mitchell 12 off the bench with 9 boards. Gonna want a little bit more out of him. Ian Jackson. He's got to come on for this team because he's their point guard. He's going to be their point guard at the end of the year. Got to get there. St. John's has got another big one tonight. Tennessee takes down Rutgers 85-60. Nate Ament, big game. Jacoby Gillespie went unconscious in that one. I mean, he was shooting from the parking lot and not even hitting the net. I mean, it was just perfect. There's weird rules with this Players Era tournament. It's pretty much who wins their games by the most. So if you get a tough matchup like we had yesterday with Tennessee and Houston, those teams kind of put each other in bad spots. But Tennessee looked really good in this game. Rutgers, they didn't have much from anybody. Nate Ament gives you 20. Okpara and Estrella both with 10. 32 from Jacoby Gillespie, 6 for 10 from 3. If Tennessee can play like that with Ament and Gillespie, they can go back to the Elite 8 like they have the past 2 years. And you'll learn a lot more about that team from their matchup against Houston, we'll get to in a little bit. Auburn over Oregon, 84-73. These are 2 of the more fraudulent teams, I think, in college basketball this year. Obviously, with Oregon and their coaching staff, they get a lot of respect because they should. They win 20 games every year, it seems like. On the other hand, they have looked so bad in most of their games this year. So, what are we going to see from them? I don't know. Auburn, they had that close loss to Houston, but then you look and they almost lost to Bethune-Cookman on opening night. Well, Auburn got this round 84-73. Keyshawn Hogg, 18 points, 24 from Tahad Pettiford. But Elijah Freeman, I mean, he was 25 points per game last year at LMU. Nothing. Keyshawn Murphy, you're going to want a little bit more of a force from him. Kevin Overton, I'm not sure about Kevin Overton. You get him to transfer in from Texas Tech. He's not been able to shoot the ball very well for your team. Filip Jovic, he's got potential. I watched him last night, and we'll talk about that game maybe in a second. Him and Sebastian Williams-Adams, if they can get going off the bench, Auburn's going to be pretty good this year. How good? Maybe second weekend, but they're a tournament team for sure. In the last game of the night, Gonzaga taking down number 8 Alabama 95-85, and once again, talking about another team that Alabama beat, actually, St. John's, was talking about them. Both of these teams have 2 losses now, already early in the season. But you look, Alabama has played so far this season, and that's counting up to today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. They're 4-2. They have played 1, 2, 3, 4 ranked teams. And they have wins over St. John's at MSG, over Illinois at the United Center. They just have some tough losses to the number 2 team, now the number 1 team in the country in Purdue, and somebody that'll probably be ranked in the top 5 with a win tonight, Gonzaga. If you watched anything on TNT yesterday and you heard Jalen Rose and Chris Webber not shut up about Gonzaga and Michigan's front courts, well, it's for good reason. Braden Huff, 18-8. Graham Ike, 21-11. I mean, that is impossible to start. Ty and Grant Foster was awesome. Alabama, LeBaron Philon had 29 points. He was great, 7 assists. Had a bit of a turnover problem. They just haven't found that second scorer yet. Is it Aiden Holloway? Is it Aiden Sherrill? Is it Amari Allen? Is it, London Jemison? Who's it going to be? Well, it wasn't Tyler Balboa, and it wasn't Houston Millett. Alabama's going to be really good this year. They've just got to get figured out how they're going to be able to move, because usually Alabama's used to throwing 10, 12 guys out there a game. They got to find those 10 to 12 guys if they want that system to work. And they got a 40-point win on nearly I think it was a 39-point win last night over UNLV. So they're getting things figured out. On to yesterday, Cal defeating UCLA 80-72, a big upset for the Bears as they take down former Pac-12 opponent UCLA, who looked like one of the tougher teams in the country. This one's really got me puzzled because, it was by far the biggest upset from yesterday. And I just don't know how to really break it down. I mean, we're going to take a look at it here. 80-72 in the Mizzen and Main Empire Classic. I mean, UCLA is not going to be a great shooting team early in the season. 40% from the field, 30% from the three-point line, 13 of 23 from the line. You hit your free throws, you win that one. And Cal just shot better. Chris Bell, 22 points. Justin Pippen, 13. Day-Day Ames had a great game. Justin Pippen is the brother of Scottie Pippen Jr. And I guess the son of Scottie Pippen. This Golden Bears team might be the real deal. They've got wins over... I mean, their only loss right now is a 3-point loss to Kansas State, who we think is really good. And now they have a top 20 win over UCLA. So, I think Cal might be a bit of a force in the ACC. Obviously, travel is going to hurt them a lot, especially with the frequency of games in basketball compared to football. Arizona State takes down Washington State 100-94. This year, we're seeing a lot more high-scoring games between big-time opponents. I think it's because of the transfer portal, because you're getting guys you're getting teams with 5 guys that can go out and at one point or another in their career in college have probably scored 15 points per game, or pretty close to it. It's usually what you're seeing now with a lot of big teams is you're getting a team with 5 guys who were the guy at their school, and you've brought them together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Some teams still recruit college or high school pretty well, like the Dukes, like the Houstons. But we'll get back to this Arizona State-Washington State game where there wasn't any defense played. Another matchup between former Pac-12 opponents now in different conferences, because thank you for Oregon and Washington taking away the Pac-12 from us, because that's exactly what we need. No more Pac-12. There we go, if we can get this thing to load. Been looking up too many teams. It's just collapsing. But here at the Maui Invitational game, listen, Ace Glass goes for 40 yesterday, the freshman. He's awesome. Arizona State, though, they have their awesome guy, Maurice Odom, 26. Diop with 12. Bryce Ford with 18. Arizona State's got their dudes, too, and they're ready to go. Washington State, though, they've got some things figured out. Get some stops. They'll be dangerous this year. What else we got from yesterday? We'll get to the game that everybody is waiting for me to talk about here in a second. Indiana takes down Kansas State 86-69. It was the first time we've seen Kansas State look a little, I don't know exactly, vulnerable, so to speak. But, I mean, that's like discrediting Indiana and DeVries and how good that program could be this year. Because I think Indiana is probably going to compete in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's really good this year. Purdue's really good. Michigan's really good. Michigan State's really good. And then you throw Indiana in there. Illinois. I mean, that conference is going to be tough. Haggerty and Bashir didn't shoot very well on this one. Bashir didn't play very much. Nate Johnson, not great. It was just not a good game for Kansas State. And then Reed Bailey, 21. Tayton Connerway, 19. Lamar Wilkerson, 14. Tucker DeVries only had 9. But, man, this Indiana team, they're deep. I mean, they had 8 guys play over 10 minutes. And had a bunch of guys play a few minutes here and there in spots. Those little 3-minute stretches are some of the most important in the game, honestly. USC takes down Seton Hall 83-81. Again, this last part's going to be pretty slow because my iPad is deciding to not want to work. And see, now it's saying I'm typing in stuff twice. I could sit here and complain for days about this. Anyway, the Trojans get the win over Seton Hall. Again, I still think Seton Hall is going to be very good, but the Maui Invitational Championship, USC Arizona State, today at 1:30. It's going to be a good one. Adam Clark with 18, Mike Williams from 13, Elijah Fisher for 10, AJ Stanton McRae for 17. They did their thing. They just couldn't get a stop, and Ezra Ozor was great. Chad Baker-Mazara with 18, Rodney Rice with 13. Man, those two really would have liked Tennessee to get Rice out of the portal, but I digress. He was a great pickup for USC, and he's a guy that wanted to go back home. Now, I'd spend some time talking about Michigan beating Auburn by 30 yesterday, or Iowa taking down Ole Miss, because those are two teams that are going to be playing in the second weekend. I guarantee it. But let's talk a little college hoops, and the biggest game from yesterday, Tennessee versus Houston. This is a rematch of an Elite Eight game from last year, as was Michigan and Auburn, and both teams got their revenge. Auburn beat Michigan like a drum. Now, the thing is that Michigan team, a lot different. That Auburn team, a lot different. I mean, Auburn doesn't even have the same head coach, and Bruce was sat there and called that game was the most awkward thing I've ever seen, because all I learned from that game was that Jalen Rose and Chris Webber will never shut up about Michigan front court and Michigan being the best team ever, and Bruce Pearl is so much of a better coach than his son. Because there were many times in the game where he'd be like, well, I would do this, and then Auburn would not do that, and then they would look dumb and then get beat. Tennessee 76, Houston 73. Listen, first media timeout, I was worried because I thought we were going to see a complete repeat of last year. Houston came out hitting and Tennessee didn't. Nate Ament, 1 for 8, was not very good shooting-wise. I think he handled the physicality pretty well, actually, all things considered. Akpara was dominant inside, 9 points, had that first 3 to get the offense going. Cade Phillips wasn't great. Jacoby Gillespie was awesome, 9 for 9 from the line. Tennessee hit their last 9 free throws. This was one of those where Tennessee had a 4-point lead. Houston would cut it to 2. Tennessee hit their free throws, back out to a 4-point lead. Houston, go lay it up real quick. Tennessee would hit their 2 free throws. Houston hit a 3. Tennessee hit their free throws again. Houston missed. Game over. Bishop Boswell announced himself yesterday as the best perimeter defender maybe in the SEC. He had 10 points, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to score a lot for you. He's going to be that Jemai Meshack kind of guy for Tennessee this year, and I think he's locked down his starting role for that. Jacoby Gillespie is going to be your go-to guard. Nate Ament's going to be your go-to wing. Felix Akpara, I would start Jalen Carey. He had a huge game yesterday. It was his best game of his Tennessee career, and it was the most physical game of his Tennessee career. And I think he thrived. 22 minutes, 13 points, 7 boards was awesome. JP Estrella gave you 8 points, 5 boards in limited minutes. Ethan Berg didn't log any stats, but didn't have any had that 1 turnover. Was pretty good. Amari Abram hit a big 3 when he got to come in the game. That Tennessee team's legit. And nothing changed because after that Duke exhibition, I thought Tennessee was an Elite 8 team, and they proved it by beating Houston. Houston had some struggling from Chris Signac, their freshman, 5 points, 11 boards. He fouled out, wasn't great, spent most of his game in foul trouble. Joseph Tugler, he was also in foul trouble the first half. Emmanuel Sharp, same thing. So it was the Kingston Flemings and Milo Shuzan show, and Kingston Flemings is... I got to see a lot of good freshmen play Tennessee this year. Cam Boozer, Nate Ament for Tennessee, and Kingston Flemings. I think other than maybe Darren Peterson and A.J. DeManza, those are the best 3 freshmen in the country. By far. They were awesome. Signac can get there, too. He is really talented as well. Houston just came up short, and, fouls was the big disparity. You look at 21 fouls to 15, but Tennessee got to the line 29 times to Houston's 11. And that's what saved the Vols, because Houston hit 4 more shots. Houston hit 4 more threes. That should have been 12 more points, but Tennessee had 15 more free throws. That's Tennessee plus 3. That's the difference in the game. Vols win. And listen, 19 of the last 20 national champions have not lost before Thanksgiving. Tennessee and Kansas will play tonight. Jayhawks have a loss. Tennessee still does not. So, that's going to be a good one tonight. And you know what? Let's talk about the games tonight, because we got some good ones, and this will be to wrap up the show. You got USC Arizona. That won't be going on in about 2 hours for the Maui Invitational Championship. Kansas and Tennessee, that third place game at the Players Era. I could rant about how dumb I think that tournament is, because you give Michigan a crappy San Diego State team and a crappy Auburn team and let them beat them like a drum and get the free pass, and then I didn't like that Tennessee probably got the best win in that tournament. Maybe you could look at Gonzaga's over Bama as the second best or the best. I don't know. I just think that the difference in their rankings makes that the best win. And Tennessee gets rewarded by a third-place game. Kansas has looked pretty good in this tournament, but they played Syracuse and Notre Dame. Tennessee is a lot better than Syracuse and Notre Dame. St. John's and Auburn, that's going to be the most physical game of the night. If it's not, then the next one I'll talk about is that one at 7 on True TV. Tennessee at 6 on TNT. Gonzaga and Michigan. It's going to be a lot of bodies banging down in the post. The guards are going to be the difference in this one. Grant Foster, Elliot Cadeau, who's really going to step up. I think Yaxel Lindenborg is going to have a huge game, and he's going to be your wild card in this one, what he's able to do. NC State and Texas, this is a Maui Invitational. I think it's the 5th place game. These are 2 tough teams. It's going to be a scrappy game at 8:30 tonight. I like NC State to win that one. Utah and Ole Miss, I like Ole Miss to win that one. Games on Thanksgiving, TCU and Florida. Florida's really good. They've struggled, but TCU is not that great. You get UNC and Michigan State, 2 top 15 teams on Fox. That's going to be a great one. If Michigan State wins, do they launch themselves into the top 10? If UNC, how do they look without Seth Trimble? BYU and Miami at 4 o'clock on ESPN. I don't think that one's going to be a great game. Miami gave Florida a bit of a push, but I think BYU is much better than them. And then the nightcap on CBS at the United Center in Illinois and Chicago. It is Arkansas and Duke. That's going to be an absolute dandy. A couple of games on Black Friday. You get Illinois at UConn, that one at 11:30 on Fox. And then A&M at Florida State. Can Florida State kind of announce themselves to the college basketball world with a Power 5 ranked win, or a Power 5 unranked win against Texas A&M? We will see. So that will do it for the Friday edition it's Wednesday, the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday edition, the Thanksgiving week special for the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. Have a happy holidays, everybody, and we will be back on Monday to break down all the action.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.